So one aspect of the presentations of our patron, Dr. John Rolay, is the inclusivity of the future, the inclusive future. So we are here now to be able to share something for the growth and development of not only of ourselves, but also of other people, specifically the next generation. So I'll be from the Philippines and one among the members of the family of Eudoxia Research Center and Eudoxia Research University in the United States. I always start my presentation with my own quotation. Let's cultivate this. You cannot distinguish your originality unless compared with others. And it is in relation to the concept of inclusivity. It is because you are supposed to think of something new. And also, of course, you cannot even identify if your work is new, your idea is new, once that you have not even compared it with others. And that is why you cannot distinguish your originality unless compared with others. And there's a lot of ways when it comes to research. If you are possibly prepared an original artwork or your own work in research, most probably at the back of your mind, at the back of your head, you have think of a very unique title or unique idea. But then once that you browse a lot of information coming from the references, books, literature, research journal, and even the internet sources, you could possibly compare your idea with those which are already printed or posted in the internet sources. So again, you cannot distinguish your originality unless compared with others. And today, I'll be talking about the process of writing what we call original article or research. So what most probably the objectives of today's first, comprehend the principles of original research writing. Number two, evaluate the different processes and content in writing an original research paper. Also, of course, critically analyze the essential elements of an original quality research paper, the manuscripts for publication. And I know that our chairman, dear chairman, will present on how to look for ways and possibility of, let's say, publishing your research, looking for a publication, etc. Okay, so to start my presentation, let's talk about the principles of research, because we cannot delineate things unless otherwise we know the different process and also, of course, the definition of research. We can only identify if our research is original or not once that we know already what the principle is all about. So the principle of research is that it is the management of data, following the planning, organizing, leading, and controlling processes to be able to draw conclusions and eventually decisions that individuals, organizations, communities, nation, and the world would be benefited in many ways. Take note of the word, benefited in many ways. From that concept alone, following the planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, you are supposed to create something new because your idea should definitely fit to what particular issue, concern, or problems at hand that you have established. Take note to be able to identify if your research is original. Try to think of, analyze first the situation or identify what the problem on hand is all about. So planning, you cannot just simply write a research without the planning because you are supposed to identify what should be done first. Following your organizing process, it is a way to identify what should be the first to do, what should be the second, the third, the fourth, etc. And leading has something to do with dealing with your co-researchers, because you need a lot of people. It is not you as researchers, because as we all know, inclusive future has nothing to do with yourself, but also, of course, of other people, and also, of course, of the future generation to come. And also, of course, controlling. It is a one way to be able to fill in the gap between what you have planned, what is in the plan, and what you have done. Okay, so I will be discussing the threefold of publication, more on particular article publication. And what are these things? Importance of research, first and foremost. Second, quality manuscript. Third, the South. Because when we are talking of quality manuscript, it should be conform with what the standards set by the publication. And also, of course, knowing yourself. Am I capable? Later, we will be discussing all those things. So what is the importance of research? What most probably the importance of results? I have defined this one based on what I have searched. I have innovated something a lot to be able to share something to other people, especially the future generation, teaching the present generation, and this present generation will definitely share to the next generation and so on. So the CNM model of 2003, the influencer of a community of educators, means eyes. And what does it mean by eyes? When we are talking of eyes, start from the individuals. What most probably the importance of research to individuals? It develops a person to become scholars. And what does it mean by scholars? So according to my research, the scholars develop a person to become scholars, or if research develops a person to become scholars. It develops a person to become systematic, critical, honest, organized, logical, analytical, rational, and sensitive to surrounding. Take note, we are not just here to live alone, but we are to share the things that we are having to other people, especially innovative things. We commonly consider innovation. It is because it is dependent on the needs and the wants of the people, especially nowadays the pandemic is in. So what should be the first to consider? What should be the things that we need to consider to be able to help other people, especially those who have lost their job? So another consideration is the community. Once that you have done with your individual thing, let's talk about community. And community means it promotes a community to become peaceful. Take note of the word peaceful. It has something to do with the unity. It has something to do with the coordination. It has something to do with at peace, working at peace, living at peace. But how can we have at peace statement? So promotes a community to become peaceful, meaning that a certain community should be productive, educated, active in all activities, collaborative, sharing something with other people. What I have got should be shared to other people. It should be economical in a sense that every single centavo counts. And also, of course, it should be functional, that all of us should be what? Contributing something for the growth and development of the community. It should be united and loud-mouthed. When we are talking of loud-mouthed, it has something to do with the sharing of information. It is not only by putting the information into the shelves, but also, of course, into action, putting into action what you have got based on your research. So this, the last one is from the word eyes, the E, education. So we are talking about teachers. So all of us are teachers, even the parents, the mother, the father, they are teaching their children, etc. Even though that if their profession is not that in teaching, but still we are developing something to share it with other people. And that mode alone, that actions of a person, it develops him to become a teacher. Education hones individual to become teachers. And what does it mean by teachers? Education hones individual to become teacher. equitable, anxious in everything, specifically the positive thing, compassionate. You are putting your heart into what you are doing. You are sharing something, you have to put yourself, your heart to other people. It hones individual to become holistic. It is not only the mind, the body, and also, of course, the heart, and also, of course, the attitude and the behavior of the individual. And he must be exceptional. Exceptional in the sense that you are innovating something. It is compatible to the existing one or ahead of what is existing because you are supposed to establish something new. Resilient in the sense that you are facing a lot of problems like what we are having. Resiliency meaning we are supposed to is strong in facing a lot of problems. Once that you have encountered problem, you are supposed to look for something that will definitely solve the problem. And that's exactly what the researchers are doing. They are looking for a solution to a specific problem or identified problem. And the education hosts individual to become sympathetic. Sympathetic in the sense that putting your shoes into the shoes of other people and always be there to listen, to give your shoulder to lean on, and to cry on if problems have not solved yet. So therefore, you are there to conduct research to be able to solve the solutions of individuals within a community or society. The second one in the threefold publication is the quality manuscript. This is exactly what we are looking for to a manuscript for publication. Let's talk about the quality manuscript. Quality works always bear a signature. This is really, really important that when you are doing things, you should always give your full effort, full energy, full time, and also, of course, your heart. So that is why, whatever the outcome, it should be your signature. Okay, so what to look for to an original publication manuscript? The first one is mechanics. General appearance, including typing, sentence structure, semantics, rhetorics, referencing, and bibliographic entries must be established and must be in conformance with what the standards set by a journal. Specifically, the Scopus Index journals, like the Eudoxia Research Center, are having a lot when it comes to science, technology, and even business. Another one is organization. It has something to do with the coherence and consistency, the unity of ideas when it comes to the construction, including the clarity, the clearness of expression. Sometimes you will be encountering the paradox or the parody of a certain thing that is not related to what you are supposed to attain. Emphasis must be there. As what I've said, the focus should be established, and the unity of structure from presentation, interpretation to conclusions of your research. And also, of course, the logical presentations of the research report. That we are supposed to follow the IMRAD format, and that is the international or the worldwide acceptable format nowadays, especially following the format of the Scopus publication. Another one is the quality. When we are talking of quality, it has something to do with originality. So that is why one of my quotation is focus on the quality. That you cannot easily distinguish your work or your original work unless otherwise compare it with others. And that is the only thing that we could possibly compare your research with other research outputs. It is because you are supposed to think of, is it based on the existing theory, concepts, or even ideas of other people? Or is it your own idea? One among the consideration is what we call the publications or related literature. The next one is appropriateness of the use of presentations of materials like the table, the charts, etc. Relevance of the study to the national, regional, international development, because in every journal, there should always be a theme. And a theme has something to do with the national, regional, and even the international development, or sometimes in conformance with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Also, of course, the appropriateness of statistical treatment. Take note that you can easily find a theme or a title of your research, but you do not know whether your statistics is appropriate to the data that you have collected, or sometimes qualitative data. But if you really intend to apply the statistics or a statistical treatment, you should be quantifying the quality or the qualitative results. Let's say, for example, beauty. So if you really intend to measure the beauty in terms of numerical value, you have to set a description. Let's say 1 as the lowest, 10 as the highest. So you could possibly quantify the quality of a certain thing. Soundness and depth of interpretations or finding. So take note of the findings. It should be within the realm of your scope. Let's say, for example, that the problem at hand is more on the level of satisfaction. So the finding should be on the level of satisfaction, or the satisfaction. Let's say, for example, the satisfactions of the customer or the consumer when it comes to the product endorsed by a particular company. Relevance of conclusions and recommendation. Parallelism and perpendicularisms must be observed here. That the title, that the statement of the problem, the findings, and the conclusion must be derived from the existing findings of your research. And also, of course, recommendation in relations to the output of your conclusions. So objectivity in the presentation. So when we are talking of objectivity in the presentation, conformance with the standard set by an institution, journal publication, or even an organizations that will accept and that will implement the result of your paper. And also, of course, let's talk about the essential elements of an original research paper for publication. And I have derived my presentation based on my research and the accordance to what should be the applicable and acceptable format or even content of a certain research. And I derived it from the word itself, scopus. What does it mean by scopus in here? The significance, content, originality, presentation, unity, and the system per se to complete the word scopus. So first is the significance. There should be a great contribution to a certain area of research or institution, both private and public, and the discipline per se. So it means that you are adding value to the body of knowledge. Let's say, for example, innovation in business world, innovation in engineering world, innovation in economic world, innovation in science and technology. So what most probably the contributions of your output of your research to enhance the body of knowledge of that particular discipline. There should be a relevant or important issue to address or alternative points of view in relation to the discipline. Like for example, in health, the Aldicibir is basically one among the medicines to be able to tame the virus. So therefore, the frontliners, the medical practitioners, keep on researching on the relevance of that particular medicine, not to control, but to tame the what we call degree of the virus. So for the content, we all know that we are always after the title because the title per se captures the heart and attentions of those readers. The title must be clearly, concisely, and accurately expressed. Take note, there is no such thing as limitation when it comes to the wordings of the title, for as long as it captures the focus, it captures the limitation, it captures the scope of your research. For the abstract, The abstract must be well organized, coherent, and clearly written. And take note, in the presentations for the abstract, some journals are limiting the number of words to a maximum of 250. And some other organization or publications, they are allowing abstract to conjust into to a maximum of 500 words. But it depends on the format and standards of a certain journal. But take note, the abstract must be well organized, coherent, and clearly written. So for the introduction, the purpose, the methods, and the results must be clearly summarized and correctly highlighted the current concerns in the area. Let's say the problem in pedagogy. What most probably the appropriate pedagogy in a setup like elementary or basic education, pedagogy in the secondary, pedagogy in the tertiary level, or the professional education. What most probably the appropriate technique, method, or even a strategy to be implemented. So the next one is on methodology. The methods used must be clearly explained, which include the methods, the data, statistics used are appropriate, and the instruments were validated and reliably checked. Take note of the things that we have to identify. Let's say the method. The method has something to do with the qualitative and the quantitative, which among the qualitative and which among the quantitative that you will be using appropriately to solve a particular problem at hand. Also, of course, the data. It could either be qualitative, but if it's more on description, qualitative. Let's say, for example, phenomenological study has something to do with the present situation. So you are supposed to identify what is going on at this point in time. That falls under qualitative, under phenomenological research. Another one is statistics use. So if we will be talking about statistics, it has something to do with the quantitative research methodology. What has something to do with what we call statistical tools. Let's say, for example, inferential statistics. What are the different statistical tools that could possibly be applied to be able to solve the statistical data or inferential data? And also, of course, the instrument, the questionnaire. It could either be the survey or it could either be an open-ended if it is more on the qualitative. But if it is more on quantitative, survey is very important. Let's say, for example, you will be applying the scalar. So scale 1 to 5, 1 to 10, 1 to 4. It depends on how your description would look like. And also, of course, the instrument must be validated in two different ways. The first one is expert validation, and the second one is statistical validation. And also, of course, to be able to consider that your instrument is reliable, there must be a statistical check. So when it comes to parallel checking of words, person-product moment correlation will be used to be able to determine if there will be some correlation. So for the result should be clearly presented with all the relevant connections with other works, with others' work, such as the use of literature review in support of the research. This is one way to validate and invalidate the existing or the present research of yours in relation to the previous researches. Most probably to be able to check, this is also one way to be able to check if your present research is original or not. There should be no misinterpretation, assumptions, and speculation. That's the result must be focused on what the data is all about. Also, of course, for the conclusion, the presentations of conclusion must be correctly, logically explained in order to avoid misinterpretation, biases, and false information. take note that your conclusion must be derived from the existing summary of data. And beyond that, there will be no control, whether it is a misinterpretation or there should be a bias or the false information that will lead to scrapping the entire work of the researcher. And for the referencing, it is very important, must reflect the latest works within the area of concern and within the sources of information. Let's say, for example, using the Mendoza or any other programs that will definitely lead you to how to be supported with the information as existing information. Take note, not all informations are on the internet, but some informations are written in other sources like books and even the hard journal. Okay, so most commonly, it is because of the pandemic. We are trained now, and some of us are continuously undergoing training to be able to utilize the fully the internet sources. So for the table, do the tables correctly indicate the measuring units in the source? And sometimes you will be finding that disagreement between what is the information and what is the presentation. Also, of course, the tables correctly named and numbered to be able not to misplace the discussion or the interpretation of the data. And also, of course, the data in tables correctly valued and interpreted in the article. So take note, tables must be correctly named and numbered. It is because your interpretation will be dependent on the existing table presentation. And the tables should be proportioned and aesthetically placed in the article to be able not to redirect the attentions of the readers, and also, of course, to those people who will be using and applying the principles that you have arrived at. The next one is originality. Originality means the problems of a research must be new. Yes, it is very important. So try to browse the internet sources. Also, of course, the existing manuscript. Let's say in your library and the libraries, the national libraries of your countries, etc. And also, of course, your own library. Let's say you are in this educational institution or you are in the company. Most probably, you have your own library that talks about the operations of your business, the operations of your educational institution, or even your personal information. There must be an innovative combinations of techniques from different disciplines. Combination in a sense that you are creating a new and innovative technique or even innovative idea, like what I've done based on my researches. That is why I came up with this idea, which is innovative in a sense that it is concise and understandable. The research must be introduced an idea that appears promising or might stimulate others to develop promising alternatives. So that is why it is exactly an innovative thing that will add value to the existing body of knowledge. Let's say, for example, when it comes to inclusive future, as what our patron have shared with us today, when we are talking of inclusive future, it is not only in the hands of those researchers, it is not only in the hands of educators, but all of the hands should be combined together. It is not only for a certain country, for a certain location, but it is for the entire world. That is what we meant by inclusive future. So there should be limited reference, as what I've said, that can be traced from the internet sources or published or unpublished materials, such as journals, magazine, books, and other references like academic researches, institutional references, etc. Even the dictionaries. So there should be limited resources to be able to consider that your work is original. If there are lots of information that coming from the different sources, or references, it means that your work is not that original. You are just simply testing the existing body of knowledge or the applications of a certain hypothesis or theories or concepts of other research in the previous years. So the presentation must be logical in structure of the research paper must be observed. It must conform with the standards set by the journals, what I've said, journal publication, because every journal has its own uniqueness that will delineate from other journal publication and must be competently written. Plagiarism checked must also be established. And take note, this is also one way to be able to consider that your research is original. Another one is unity. Unity is that the research must establish its conformance with the thrust or the theme of the journal publication in relation to the existence of your agenda or research agenda. All organizations, specifically the academic organization or academic community, academic institutions, educational institutions, they have their own agenda that will definitely solve a particular problems within the organization, or it should be in conformance with the government's trust. Let's say, for example, the trust of the government of today is infrastructure project. So the focus should be in line with the infrastructure project or development of human resources to a certain extent that these people will be the rich source of information for the next generation to be utilized. Revolutionary information must be elucidated to give light to the area of concern that combines or connects different thoughts. Let's say Maslow hierarchy of needs and ERG. So it has something to do with what? The basic need must be satisfied first. And also, of course, those are the ideas, those are the concepts, those are the theories that need to be satisfied based on the needs of a certain person, group of people, or a certain community. So those are just bases. Another one is system. The research undergo appropriate evaluation by the panel of experts in the field in conformance with international standards set by the publication. So bias and approval from the committee on evaluation and examination, like what we commonly do. It has something to do with the presentation, and there are people who are expert in the field and who will scrutinize the particular contents of the research paper, whether it is in conformance with the standards set by the organization or across the standards or acceptable standards internationally. And the last one is the self. It has something to do with asking yourself if I am ready to write a publication or to write an original research paper. So it has something to do with what? A sense of self, preparing yourself to do an original research paper. The first one has something to do with, if you intend to motivate people in the world of research, try to ask yourself first am I equipped? Do I have the necessary knowledge? Am I capable? Am I eligible? Am I at the right direction? So this is the right platform for you. If you really intend to be motivated, this is the right thing to do. You are at the right track. It is because you are in good hand with Eudoxia. And this is the right thing to do, to be with the expert in the field of research, to be able to equip with the necessary knowledge and information, and to be able to be capable of doing things by exercising, putting into action, putting into writing what you have in mind. Am I eligible? Yes, because you are here. You are in this platform. So therefore, you are at the right direction. Okay, so to continue, reason why we are being motivated. So this is exactly what is happening in the world. Poverty, humiliation, social status, competition, recognition, and power. So all these things are basically the byproducts of what we call inclusive future, inclusive of the human being, inclusivity when it comes to ideas, knowledge, information, research into one. You are supposed to help other people to alleviate poverty, to eliminate humiliation, to uplift social status when it comes to economic as a standard basis, to be able to consider if you belong to a certain society and to be able to compete in the world of, let's say, business in any industry. And also, of course, you are doing research to be able to be recognized in the field where you are in, to create power, to share information with other people in the world. So that is why these are the things that made a person become researcher and become motivated to be able to satisfy all these things. So the next one is more on the motivation, the forces within a person that affect his or her direction, intensity, and persistence of voluntary behavior. This is exactly the usual thing that you can see and observe among the research experts. And the elements of activity, motivation, direction, and focus of the behavior, this is the focus of researchers, level of the effort provided, your exerted effort, and also, of course, your energy to be able to push you to do what you want to do, and the persistence of the behavior. That is the usual thing that you will observe among the members of the Eudoxia family to be able to share something for the other people. And the premise for this, self has something to do with self-motivation in 2003, and has something to do with the profile, personality quotient, personal interest, and the perspective. What does it mean that this profile? It has something to do with the gaseous. Gaseous means the genre, academic preparation, sexual orientation, environment, obduracy, upbringing, and the sphere where a person belongs. And also, of course, when it comes to the personal quotient, this is very common among the researchers. Intelligence quotient must be established to a certain height or rate, spirituality quotient, emotional quotient, and the adversity quotient. These are the things that need to be measured among the researchers. And you are at the right direction because your intelligence quotient is as far as of those who are expert in the field. Also, of course, when it comes to personal interest, it has something to do with the facts. Fact model meaning your fascination, your adjudication, your concentration, and talents must be into one, the holistic view of a person as a researcher. And also, of course, when it comes to personal perspective, the perspective has something to do with the head, the heart, and the hand. Has something to do with 3H to complete the self, the mind, the emotion, and the skills needed to a certain research expert. And how could we possibly establish these things? Let's talk about the head. It has something to do with the mind. Mind means mind conditioning, investing in training. That's what you are doing. You are investing in training, attending seminar conferences, and also, of course, this particular platform. Nurturing with appropriate information, diluting ideas. And for the heart, it has something to do with emotion. Emotion means expect less, memorize not, optimizing potential, toddling spirit, and also, of course, inflicting ideas, and your omnipotently projection and your nimbling delivery. Also, of course, it has something to do with the skills. It refers to the capability and ability of a person to execute things, strike and focus, pick out the unnecessary, include the essentials, and also, of course, level up the energy and reach the capability to a certain extent to what you can ever perform or exert effort. And also, of course, support with example. And to be able to capture the heart, capturing the self-attention, it has something to do with the mirror model, mind setting, intellectual capacitating, redirecting the focus, re-evaluate the intensity, organize the plan, and also, of course, reducing the task. And that completes my presentation today. Have a good day, everyone. I hope you learned something for yourself to be more elucidated when it comes to focusing, creating some focus, creating some or exerting energy, and to be motivated to be part of the world of research. Again, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you learned something for you to be guided in doing an original work.